Okay, so this is the lecture on the angiosperms from chapter 23. Angiosperm, where gymnosperm meant naked seed, angiosperm means covered seed. In other words, the seed is covered and protected by a fruit and a flower. So the angiosperms are the flowering plants. If it produces a flower, then it's an angiosperm. All fruits, vegetables, nuts, herbs, and grains, which are the staples of the human diet, are angiosperms. Okay. Angiosperms are divided into two classes, the monocotyledons or monocots, and the eudicotyledons or eudicots, and sometimes that is shortened to dicots. So mono meaning one, a monocot is a flowering plant that has one cotyledon or seed leaf, and a dicot has two cotyledons or seed leaves. Okay, so examples of monocots are corn, tulips, pineapples, and sugarcane, and dicots would be cacti, strawberries, dandelions, poplars, and beans. So monocots have one cotyledon and dicots have two cotyledons. Then there are other differences as well that are listed here. Monocots have flower parts in threes or multiples of threes. So you would see 3 petals or 6 petals or 9 petals, you know. Dicots, flower parts are in 4s or 5s or multiples of 4 and 5. In monocots, the pollen grain has 1 pore, and in dicots, the pollen grain has 3 pores. Monocots are usually herbaceous or like grassy. They aren't woody, in other words, and dicots can be woody or herbaceous. The veins, the vein pattern in monocots is parallel. If you look at the leaves of a corn plant, for example, you will recognize that they're long leaves and the veins are parallel to each other. And the dicots leaves usually have a net venation pattern. The vascular bundles in monocots are scattered vascular bundles or vascular tissue, and they are in a ring in the dicot. In the stem of a monocot, the bundles of vascular tissue are scattered, and in dicots, they are in a ring pattern. Monocots tend to have fibrous roots. They're bushier, in other words, whereas dicots have a taproot system, one long tap root with just a few branches. You can see a monocot flower up here in A. It's got 3 leaves. It's got 3 sepals, whereas this dicot has 5 petals. I meant to say 3 petals and 3 sepals. This dicot has 5 petals that I can see clearly, and it looks like maybe 5 male structures here, here, and here. This monocot has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 male structures called stamens, and the part I was pointing to is called the anther. But the male structures down here on the dicot, there are 5 of them. So those are just some things that help you to understand differences between the two, you know. And okay, so the flower itself, you need to know the parts of the flower, since that is the reproductive structure of an angiosperm. The sepals are the little leaflets that form the bud of the flower before it blooms. You know, it's those sepals are the little green leaves that enclose the bud of the flower, and together they're called the calyx. So they protect the flower bud before it opens. Petals all together are called the corolla, and normally whenever the flower blooms and you can see the petals really good, the sepals have withered away. Sometimes they even fall off. But the purpose of petals is to attract a particular pollinator. So the smell and the color is designed to attract pollinators so that they will feed on the nectar and in the meantime transfer pollen from the male to the female parts so that we can have new plants. The male structures altogether are called stamens. The filament is the stalk of the stamen, and the anther is where the pollen is produced. So the anther is the structure that produces pollen. The female structure is called the carpel, and the regions of the carpel would be the top of it, the stigma, which is sticky so that pollen will stick to it, and then there's a stalk called a style, and at the base there is an ovary, and the ovules are going to be like the eggs that when they are fertilized by the sperm inside the pollen, then the ovules will become the seeds. The fruit will be the ripened ovary, and a lot of times fruits help distribute seeds. Now you can see a picture of all the structures. Here's your stamens. They're pink with brown tips. The stamens have a filament, and then at the tip they have an anther. Then you have the female structure or carpel, which has the tip of it is called the stigma. The tube, the stalk is called the style, and then the base is the ovary, which contains the eggs or ovules. You can see the sepals, and altogether they're called the calyx, and then the petals, altogether they are called the corolla. Let's see. Flowering plants are heterosporous. That means they produce two types of spores. A megaspore, which is located in the ovule and develops into an egg-bearing female gametophyte called the embryo sac. So the female gametophyte in flowering plants is technically the embryo sac. There's usually 7 cells in the megaspore. One cell is an egg. One contains 2 polar nuclei. And then there are 5 that don't have special functions. I think I remember learning that they're called antipodal cells or something like that, but there are 5 that don't. The 2 that have important functions are the one that serves as the egg and the 2 polar nuclei. Okay, microspores are produced within the anthers, which are the male structures on the flower. They become pollen grains, and when the pollen grains are mature, they are actually the male gametophytes. So if you're asked what the female gametophyte is in an angiosperm, it's the embryo sac. And in the angiosperm, the male gametophyte is the pollen grain. Okay. The mature male gametophyte consists of 3 cells, a tube cell and 2 sperm cells. So the tube cell is going to be for forming the pollen tube, and then the sperm are going to fertilize the 2 different important cells in the embryo sac, the egg cell and the 2 polar nuclei. Okay, so pollen is transported from the anther to the stigma of the carpel. It lands on there and it grows a tube cell because the tube cell fertilizes. The tube cell grows into a pollen tube, and then the 2 sperm travel through the tube to the opening of the ovule, and they're going to fertilize, and this next process is called double fertilization. One sperm is going to fertilize the egg, and it will become the diploid zygote. The other sperm unites with 2 polar nuclei, so that's 1, 2, 3 nuclei. That means that the endosperm is going to be triploid. It's going to have 3 copies of the chromosomes instead of 2. So the ovule becomes a seed, and the seed consists of the embryo and the endosperm. The embryo is the sporophyte of the next generation. It's what's going to grow into the adult flowering plant. The endosperm is the food for the embryo, and it's stored within the seed coat. And again, fruit is derived from the ovary. When the ovary is ripe, and that means the fruit is ripe. This shows you the life cycle of the flowering plant. The main thing with the flowering plant is to understand double fertilization. And here's some flower terminology. If we call it complete, it has all 4 parts: sepals, petals, stamens, and carpels. It's incomplete if it lacks 1 or more of the 4 parts. So if it's only a male flower or only a female flower, we would also call it incomplete. It's perfect if it has both stamens and carpels, both male and female parts, and it's imperfect if it has stamens or carpels but not both. So if it's incomplete and that incompletion means that it doesn't have carpels, for example, we would call it incomplete and imperfect. Inflorescence is a cluster of flowers, and composite is a single flower but consists of a group of tiny flowers. And that is it for chapter 23.